Hello. Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I talked before about my feelings about what Uncle Drac's origins were. He's a trained martial artist, traveled the world to refine his skills, discovered that there were people taking advantage of people below their class, and had to step in, felt the impetus to take action, whether the law permitted it or not. And I was rightly asked at that point, well, if he's just doing that, what makes him a villain? Good question. Then I had to think about it. I do like giving comments that make me think. It never leads to a boring night inside my head. A villain, by definition, is a character whose evil motivations and actions provide impetus for the rest of the characters to act. Or, another way to put it is that the villain is the person who makes it necessary for heroism to take place. And granted, I have been thinking of Uncle Drac more as an anti-hero than a villain of late. What would make a character who was taking action in the benefit of the underprivileged and oppressed into an actual villain? And in my moments of talking to myself, which I probably do a little bit too much, I need to see someone about that, probably. Uncle Drac told me. I think I'll let him tell you in his own words. So, what makes a villain a villain? You have a line. A line that you have decided you're not going to cross. Heroes have lines. You're going to go so far and no further. You're not going to take a life. You're not going to use guns. You're not going to break the law. You're not going to do something dishonorable. Those are good lines to have. Everyone should have lines like that. Not a line set down by society, but a line you've decided on. It's a hindrance from times, but that's what makes a hero, that they have hobbled themselves with this ideal of justice or honor, and they make it work anyway. That line is the difference between a hero and the villain. Let me explain. Small village. You don't need to know what country. You don't even need to know what continent. Small village. Corporate interests were encroaching. The village was on land that belonged to the village, but the corporation thought that they could use it better. The law wasn't necessarily on the corporation's side, but it wasn't necessarily on anyone's side. The corporation knew how to work within that law. I'd helped the village, within limits. I had limits back then. Drove away a couple of incursions. It's amazing how few people who operate bulldozers will continue to operate bulldozers when you've punched them in the head a few times. Big celebration, fireworks, dancing in the streets, lots of yub-nub, if you know what I mean. I go to help get supplies. It's a couple of days. The village is very remote. I get back. Celebration is turned into a funeral. Corporation came back. Some more bulldozers. Some men in black uniforms. They'd killed a little girl. It wasn't even that she'd been in their way. They needed someone to demonstrate how far they were willing to go to take what they wanted to take. I knew that family. I helped them bury her. I was not entirely in my right mind when I broke into the corporation's offices the next night. The CEO was there. He lived there. You know, one of the things about these remote places and continents that I haven't mentioned the name of, they tend to keep all their facilities in one spot. I got into their data, amassed records, had a data stick full of evidence. I could pin it on them. I could pin it on him immediately. I could email this evidence, but I went to confront the CEO because that wasn't have been enough. I needed to see the look on his face when he knew that he was going to be held accountable for this action. You know, back in those days, I had a set of guidelines. I had a line. You use the law. You use the justice system. You bring people to justice and let them face the laws that they've broken. I confronted him with the evidence. And he laughed. He laughed. He had nothing to fear. He had the courts in his pocket. He had the law enforcement in the local area in his pocket. He had the judges in his pocket. He had nothing to fear. He laughed at the evidence. He laughed at me for bothering to go through those steps. He laughed at the funeral of the little girl and laughed at the funeral of the next people he was going to kill. Didn't care. He wanted the land. He was going to have it. And there was nothing I could do to stop him. Not legally. That line that we draw for ourselves, it's there for a reason. It's because once you have a certain amount of ability, once you have a certain amount of power, as it were, you are either going to use it responsibly or you're not. You're either going to allow how you use the power to define you, or the fact that you simply have it to define you. It's a big difference. He stood on the other side of my line, treating it like a wall, hiding from me on the other side of my limitations. He was right. Legally, couldn't touch him. But he was right there. And he was laughing. Once you cross that line, you're not crossing back. It's a one-way trip, you know. Oh, you can try to seek redemption, but from that point on, you will always remember that you crossed that line. And you can either struggle to stay on one side of it and fight for redemption, or you can own it. I crossed that line. I crossed that line so fast your head would have spun. His did. I didn't just kill him. What I did to him was so spectacular and dramatic that other people who thought they might take the same course of action as him would look to what had happened to him, shudder, and decide against it. I didn't turn him into a corpse. I turned him into a message. That was the first warrant. Now, I could have turned back. I couldn't cross the line back to where I'd been, but I could have set another line. I'm never going to do this again. Well, you know what? I wasn't even a little bit sorry. I didn't have a moment of regret. Well, I knew that I'd done something wrong. I couldn't be sorry. I was never going to ask anyone's forgiveness. And if someone ever put me in that situation again, I was going to turn them into a message too. And I have. No matter my cause, no matter my ultimate motivation, people really do need to try and stop me. I encourage people to try and stop me. It's not right to have someone doing this, but somehow I just can't stop myself anymore. I do like people who think that my methods need to be ended, to contemplate what they would do, standing on one side of the line, while someone stood on the other side laughing at them and hiding from them. We can't all be Superman with his iron-clad morality. Can't all be Captain America pre-Secret Empire with the firm footing next to the river of truth. Can't all be Batman with the iron-clad will necessary to leave the tools of death behind when pursuing justice. You better believe I'd have snapped the Joker's neck by now. I'm a villain because I refuse to lay down any more lies. I will not be defined by morality or ethics, merely by results. I will use fear. I will use pain. And I will make people stop laughing. Bad people, for the most part, I think. I don't know. Good people haven't laughed at me yet. There's probably a reason for that. So, what would you do? Line laid down. You on one side, holding to your values, and someone on the other side, blood on their hands, laughing at you. I'm curious to know. Oh man. Uncle Drac's voice is actually kind of fun to do, and it is almost too entertaining to take the character on from time to time. It is nice to have a voice that, and a personality at hand, that doesn't give a damn. I have limits. I have lines. I am not, in and of myself, a villain, and don't think I got it in me to really be one. But I can play one on YouTube, and I damn well intend to. There's going to be some videos coming out in 2018. Cooking videos mostly, but I'm probably going to springboard those. I would hate for my wife's magnificent work on Uncle Drac's coat to go unseen, so that is going to be out there. And, well, I've got the darn logo worked out, so I got to use it. Make no mistake, he's somewhere between villain and anti-hero, leaning more towards villain, because that's how he sees himself. A lot of that, I think, is in a character's perception of themselves. How they see what they are doing and why. At least Uncle Drac's honest about feeling like a villain. Now you've got your Ra's al Ghuls and whatnot who believe that because they're obviously working towards the ultimate good of the planet, and despite the genocide and everything, that what they're doing is laudable. Yeah, Uncle Drac knows better. His existence is simply that if there are a few less murderous assholes on the planet when he is done being a murderous asshole himself, he can die happy. There's a mythos and a backstory and all kinds of stuff revolving around it. Uncle Drac was kind of my my foundational pillar of the visualizations I used when I was undergoing the chemo and the radiation. You know, someone straps you down to a table by your face for half an hour a day over the course of 7 weeks. You find yourself relying on what strong personalities you can call on to get through things from time to time. I kind of owe Uncle Drac some time. I don't know, cooking videos and some storyline and maybe some pulp novels. Would you read Uncle Drac pulp novels? I'd read Uncle Drac pulp novels. The question is, will I write them? And probably. Thank you very much for following me along on this particular exploration of one of my favorite personal characters. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have any questions or comments, questions for Uncle Drac, questions for me, things you'd like to see, leave me a comment. I love giving comments. You'll love leaving me one. Like to see these videos when they come out, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you do hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notification next to it so that you get these notifications as soon as the videos come out. If you really dug the video, I invite you to hit me up my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. Happy New Year. I'll see you next time on the next Matters of Decorum.